Here's an old friction between EF core and domain-driven design. You model your domain with value objects, strong types instead of loose primitives, but EF core wants to store primitives. The usual fix is a wall of mapping configuration, OwnsOne, HasConversion, one entry per property, and plenty of room to get it subtly wrong. Trellis replaces nearly all of it with one line of conventions and an analyzer to catch the rest. Let me show you. You model your domain with value objects, a project ID instead of a raw GUID, a project name instead of a string, but EF core wants primitives. The usual fix is a wall of configuration, one entry per property. Trellis replaces it with one line. In ConfigureConventions, you call ApplyTrellisConventionsFor, and it's source-generated, so there's no reflection scan at startup. That single call maps your scalar value objects to their underlying columns, your smart enums to a string or an int, and your optional maybe values to nullable columns. You wrote the domain, the mapping just follows. But the real friction is composite value objects, an address with a street, city, and zip, a money with an amount and a currency. In raw EF core, these need OwnsOne and a column name for every field, and getting it subtly wrong is a classic source of bugs. With Trellis, you just declare them on the aggregate, and that's it. The convention recognizes a composite value object and table splits it into prefixed columns automatically. Location becomes location street, location city, location zip. Budget becomes a budget column plus a BudgetCurrency column. And if it's optional, a maybe of money, you get the same columns, just nullable. No OwnsOne, no handwritten column names, nothing to get wrong. Last piece, concurrency. Two users open the same project, both save. Without protection, the second silently clobbers the first, a lost update. Trellis handles it with an ETag. Every aggregate carries one, and an interceptor, wired by ApplyTrellis interceptors, rolls it forward on every write and marks it as a concurrency token. So if your update is based on a stale version, EF core refuses it instead of overwriting newer data. And here's the elegant part. That ETag is the very same value you hand back over HTTP for if match, the optimistic concurrency we built in Series 3. One token, enforced at the database and exposed at the edge, and your save returns a result, not a thrown exception. So what does this buy you? 3 things. 1. Your value objects, scalar and composite, persist with zero mapping ceremony. No OwnsOne, no HasConversion, no column names. You model the domain and the columns follow. 2. The conventions are source-generated, so they're reflection-free and fast. And if you do hand-roll a mapping that Trellis already handles, an analyzer warns you, so the easy path stays the correct one. And 3. Concurrency is unified. One ETag is both your database concurrency token and your HTTP if-match value. So a lost update is prevented at the storage layer and surfaced cleanly at the API. Persistence that follows your domain instead of fighting it. So that's persistence the Trellis way. One line of conventions maps every value object, scalar and composite, with no OwnsOne in sight. An interceptor keeps an ETag rolling for optimistic concurrency, the same token you expose over HTTP, and your saves return results, not exceptions. The domain stays clean, and the database follows it. Next time, we make state and events atomic, the transactional outbox, so you never lose an event even when the network does. Subscribe, and I'll see you there.